Hey everyone, welcome to the Decorative Den. My name's Charity and I am so happy to have you here with me today. The Decorative Den is a look inside my craft room, and today I am working on a craft project which is making one of these burlap banners. So I'm going to take you through all the steps I do to make one of these banners, which I use for home decor, to use at parties and celebrations. They're really versatile and I think just an awesome thing to know how to make. In addition to showing you the steps to making one of these banners, I'm also going to show you my favorite way to prep burlap to prevent it from fraying. So if you've ever worked with burlap before, you know this is a woven material, and over time it's really easy for it to just kind of unravel as you're working. These strings come apart super easy, and so I find that it's really important to prep your burlap before doing any project that involves cutting it. And so I'm going to show you my favorite way to do that today. But anyway, enough about that. Let's get crafting. Starting with our supplies, the first thing we're going to need is the actual burlap material that we're going to make the pennants of our banner out of. We're also going to need some kind of cord or twine to string the pennants together. Here I'm using jute twine, but know that baker's twine would work just as well if you prefer that look. We're also going to be making some templates for the pennants of our banner. For this, I recommend either a thick cardstock or some thin cardboard using a cereal box or cracker box. Here I'm using a Cheez-Its box, but something like that is perfect for making these templates. In order to make those templates, we are going to have to do some measuring. So I suggest having a ruler on hand as well as a permanent marker and a pencil to help with that process. We're going to be prepping our burlap today to prevent fraying, and for that we're going to need some type of white glue. I'm using Mod Podge, but know that Elmer's glue would work just as well. We're going to need some water to mix with that glue, and a jar or cup to mix those two items together in, as well as a foam brush that we're going to use to apply the mixture to the burlap. Finally, we're going to need a few additional tools. So a pair of scissors that can cut through material is really important, as well as a strong hole punch that can cut through burlap as well. So the one that I'm using is actually not a standard size hole punch. This is a 1/8 inch size circular hole punch, and I really like this size. I think it provides a nice clean look for our pennants, but know that you can also use a standard size hole punch. So the first thing we're going to do is actually prep our burlap, since this is something that's going to need to sit and dry for a while. And I apologize because I know this is a busy background, but what I have here is just my cutting mat that I covered in saran wrap, just because I want to protect my table. And I definitely recommend putting down some kind of cardboard, foil, parchment paper, anything just to protect your surface if it is a surface that you do not want covered in glue. So we are going to take our cup and in it mix equal parts of our Mod Podge or white glue and our water. And so what I'm going to do is just take this glue and fill my tiny mason jar about 1/4 of the way. Ooh, and make a bit of a mess. All right, and then I'm going to take my water and add again an equal amount of that, filling it to about halfway. Great, and then I'm going to take my foam brush and just take and mix these two together so I get kind of a milky but still runny mixture of my water and my glue. So the next thing we're going to do is then take this mixture and apply it to our piece of burlap. So I have my burlap right here, and I'm just going to take this foam brush and generously apply my mixture to the burlap. And you may end up needing to mix more glue. I think that's totally fine. I prefer a lot of glue to a little glue, just so I know that every bit of the burlap is covered. And I really like a foam brush for this because I think it's much easier to just squeeze excess water and excess glue mixture out onto the burlap. And I find that sometimes when I use a brush with hairs on it, like a traditional paintbrush, the hairs come off and get just stuck to my project. So I like that this provides a lot cleaner of a look. So I'm just gonna go through and finish covering up this burlap with my mixture off camera, because this process will remain the same. And then we will meet back here to start working on our templates. Okay, so I have finished prepping my burlap and I set that aside to dry. And while that is drying, the best thing to do is to start making your templates for your pennants. So I have two here, and these are the standard sizes that I like to use. So this first one is a 6-inch by 7-inch pennant, and I feel like this makes a pretty standard size banner that you would see hanging on someone's like fireplace mantle or at a party and things like that. The other size I really like, and the size I'll be making today, is what I call a mini banner, and it is 4 by 5 inches. And essentially, you can make these any size you want, but I find to keep the shape really just eye-catching and pleasing, the best thing to do is keep a ratio of 1 inch longer than wide, right? So I have 4 by 5 and 6 by 7. And you can go larger than this, you can go even smaller than this, but again, I think generally keeping it 1 inch in length longer than you do in width really helps create that nice shape. So I'm going to show you how I made these, and what we're going to do is take our cardboard box or our cardstock, and I'm using a Cheez-It box, and all I did off camera was cut out the back panel of this box. And so this is what I'm going to use as the base to create my template. So I'm going to be making a 4 by 5 inch template today. So I'm going to get out my ruler as well as my pencil. And the first thing I'm going to do is just start by drawing a 4-inch line across, because again, that is the width that I want my banner to be. So I have 4 inches here, and then before I move my ruler, I'm going to just do a little mark here at the 2 inches. So I know that that is the middle of my 4-inch width line. So then the next thing I'm gonna do, just turning my cardboard here, is at that 2-inch mark, line up my ruler again, and I'm gonna go down 5 inches, because this is my 4 by 5 inch. And I'm not going to draw a straight line. Instead, at the 5-inch mark, I'm just going to put a dot for reference, so I know that that is the length that I want my banner to be. So then, just to create that simple pennant triangular shape, all I'm going to do is take my ruler and line up the end of my 4-inch line with the 5-inch dot, right? That dot I made at the 5-inch mark. And once I have that lined up, I'm just gonna draw a line with my pencil connecting the two. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the other side. So again, lining up the end of that line with the dot I made at the 5-inch mark. And again, drawing a line to connect those. And that is how I get the basic shape for my banner. So once I have that all traced out, the next thing I do is I just take my scissors and I cut that shape out. Okay, so it is the next day. I decided to just let my fabric dry overnight just to make sure it was completely dry. And now you can see that that glue mixture is soaked into all of the fibers, and it has left my material pretty stiff, but still a little bit bendable, which is kind of the texture you want for this. So the next step, now that our burlap is completely prepped, is to actually cut out the the pennants for our banner. And so the first thing we're gonna do to do that is take a ruler and kind of near the edge of our fabric square, but not exactly at the edge, just because I find sometimes the edge of the fabric doesn't get completely covered in our glue mixture. So I like to go about 1 inch out from that, and all I'm gonna do is with a pencil, draw a straight line. And I like using a pencil for this because it is visible enough for us to use when we're cutting out our pennants to see what we're trying to cut, but it kind of also blends into the burlap, so you don't really notice any pencil marks on your finished product. So I'm just going across here and marking a straight line. And let me just make sure, yeah, you can see that through the camera. So now that we have this straight line, the next thing I'm gonna do is take that template that we had made earlier, and I'm gonna actually use it this way so it's kind of easier to see against the fabric. And I'm just gonna line the short edge of the template up against that line we just made. And then using our template, I'm going to trace the other sides of our banner with my pencil. And it's okay if these look a little bit messy because all of our pencil marks are going to be on the back side of our banner. So there we have one of those. And then I find the easiest thing to do is just flip your template around, line it up with that edge you just made, and then draw, whoop, helps if you don't break your pencil, draw your next line. Okay. I'll be right back. I clearly need to go sharpen my pencil. Okay, back with a sharpened pencil, and I'm gonna just continue drawing that line. And all you're gonna do is just go back and forth and continue tracing your template. Okay, so right now I have 5 of my pennant shapes traced out, and certainly when I'm doing this I try to use as much burlap as possible. So after I'm done filming this part, I'll probably go through and use this second piece of burlap as well. But the point is, once you have everything traced out on your material, the next step is to get a pair of scissors and just cut following those lines. Okay, so we now have all 5 of our pennants we traced out cut out, and as you can see there still is a little bit of that pencil mark showing on them. Here, this one's a good example, but that's going to be the back side because when we flip this over you can't see any of that pencil. And because we prepped our burlap, when we cut it, we got these nice clean lines. And so the material doesn't fray at all, even when you pull at it. And so that's really the key when it comes to creating banners or really any project like this out of burlap. So I'm going to set these aside because our next step is to take each of our individual pennants and decide where we would like to punch holes in them so we can string them together using our jute twine. And so this is really personal preference on where you punch these holes. It's all about kind of what look you want for your banner. But I suggest using a cutting mat like this can be really helpful for just kind of lining up. So I'm going to be lining it up here just so I can kind of see what that looks like. And then I think I'm going to want to do mine about 1/2 inch down from the top, and so just kind of eyeballing where that would be, and then probably about 3/4 inch in. And so I'm going to take a permanent marker to mark just 2 little dots of where I want to punch those holes. And you can also use a pencil for this part, but I certainly think the marker is a little bit easier since we're just making a dot. So I'm making that and making this one also about 3/4 in. And so you'll see those are the 2 places where I'm going to punch the holes in this pennant. So I'm just going to set that one aside and do that same thing for each of these. Okay, so now that I have marked each of these banners, I am going to take my hole punch and just go through, and I'm going to punch each of the spots where we made a mark. So now that everything is punched, we're on to the last step of our banner, which is taking our jute twine or baker's twine, whatever you're using, and stringing our pennants together. And so the amount of cord you need really varies on the size of the individual pennants and the number that you're stringing. So I have 5 of my 4-inch wide pennants. So all of these touching together would equal 20 inches. And then I like to have about an additional 16 inches on either side of my pennants because I find that length works well with the bookshelf that I'm hanging these on. So here I pre-cut out my twine to be the length that I need. And so again, you cut yours to whatever length works for your banner. And all I'm going to do is find which is the front and which is the back side of my pennant so I can see the pencil on this, so I know this is the back side. So I'm going to flip this over. And the first thing I'm going to do is take my cord and stick it from the back side up through to the front side of my banner. And then I'm going to weave it through the other end going the opposite way, so from front to back. And that's kind of the look I have there. You certainly can also weave these the other way depending on what kind of aesthetic you're going for. So I'm going to show you the opposite way now. And so that is starting from, this is the front side of my banner. So starting from the front and going through to the back, and then coming out the back to the front. And that's kind of the other way it looks. So the way you string your pennants on your banner is totally up to you. I think both ways are very cute depending on the look you're going for. So I think today I'm actually gonna lean towards this look with more of the exposed area in the front and more of my string tucked behind it. So I'm just gonna take these off and go through and string all of these in that style. Okay everyone, so I finished stringing that off camera, and here you go. Here is my finished burlap mini banner. I think it came out great, and the steps, as you can see, aren't that complicated at all. You just have to be a little patient to let your glue dry when you're prepping your burlap. And I think the best thing about this project is what I showed you today is really just the basics, the first steps to creating one of those banners, because from here you can take these pennants and decorate them however you want for whatever you want. And so some of my favorite things to do are to add little felt appliques to my banners. So here's a little heart I added for Valentine's Day. I also really like to use craft paint to decorate my banners. So this I just did with acrylic craft paint. And so as you can see, you really can use these banners for whatever you want. Home decor, celebrations, anything. So I really hope that this tutorial today was helpful for you, that you feel inspired to create a banner of your own. If you liked this video, please hit the like button for me so I know, and I will try to make future tutorials like this. In general, please subscribe if you're interested in DIY projects, craft ideas, and planning videos. But anyway, thank you so much for being here with me today, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!